First things first. I'm Jenna Wolfe. That's Chris Carter, the Hall of Famer. This is Nick Wright. What's up, Nick?
You just tickle me, Jenna Wolfe.
Why?
I love you so much.
What happened?
Jenna, Chris is not lying when he says there is a pit crew surrounding Jenna moments before the show doing everything. Jenna's screaming to our wonderful stage manager, Nina, I need my pillow for my seat. All these things are happening. And then right where we go on the air, this happens. Jenna grabs one of her 2 drinks, sees there's nothing in it, like that. Right before we go on the air. How I only have one thing to drink here.
Okay.
But I just love you so much.
Got all
You're
that out of your
delightful.
system?
Well, at
you know
least
what
the
happened
first
before
minute.
you came in this morning? Nick and I are all settled up. I finally paid him for my NBA season of losing. We start fresh for baseball now, but I am all paid up with my wages. That's why he's in such a good
Fast
mood
pay
today.
makes fast friends.
Right, and slow pay makes us.
That's why we're
no interest either.
where
She got
we
very
are.
lucky. But
All
good
right.
morning,
A clean
everybody.
slate.
Good morning.
You look nice.
Thank you, as do you both. All right, among the many perks, you guys know this, that comes with being an NBA legend, commanding the proverbial room, which is why when they talk about each other's superstars, that is, we all listen. For example, Kobe Bryant. He's pretty sure he knows what LeBron's priority should be as he looks for his next team. We listened as Kobe told Bleacher Report, all I thought about as a kid personally was winning championships. That's all I cared about. Now everybody's going to value things differently, which is fine. I'm just telling you how I value mine. If I'm LeBron, you got to figure out a way to win. It's not about narrative. You want to win championships, you just got to figure it out. CC, you made an interesting face there as I was reading that. What was your reaction to Kobe's comments?
Now, Kobe, before LeBron James, in my lifetime, there have been 4 basketball players that I would say that had just a unbelievable mark, like, on me. And I would say that the first time they come in groups, because I've met them all at the same time. That would be Kareem, Magic, and Isaiah Thomas, a friend of the show. Like, because of my brother and his relationships, I was able to meet them. These guys, tremendous basketball players. All of them champions. All of them very, very different in what their goals and what they wanted to do and how they were going to go about it. And then after that, high school, Michael Jordan. Michael Jordan and I, relatively the same age, went to high school basketball camp together. So Michael Jordan had the lasting impression on me over all basketball. Then it was Kobe Bryant, who I thought was going to be the next Michael Jordan, like a lot of people. You would agree, right?
A lot of people, most primarily Kobe Bryant, thought he was going to be the next Michael Jordan.
Right, but I do remember late in Kobe's career where he talked about potentially going to other teams and playing for another team outside of the Lakers. And it wasn't championship aspirations. He didn't want to play with the Lakers anymore. And if you look at the last several years with the Lakers, with him being hurt and them being at the basement of the NBA, maybe he forgot that. I mean, I didn't forget. Kobe is a great champion. But I know Kobe's whole story. And sometimes when you get out of your profession and then you start having critiques, sometimes you're absent of what your career was really like. Now,
What you call revisionist history.
yeah, and no one, I mean, just because you thought of championships, that doesn't make someone else a lesser champion, because LeBron and what he has to do being from Northeast Ohio is totally different than Kobe growing up with his dad being a professional basketball
But we
player.
should also clarify, this quote is not about LeBron's next decision. This quote was in a story about this year and them making the finals again and not winning. It was Kobe was one of 8 basketball players from the Isaiah Thomas you talked about, the original Isaiah Thomas, Vince Carter, Chauncey Billups, Paul Pierce, who doesn't even like LeBron because of their history with Cleveland and Boston and then Miami and Boston, all talking about LeBron's run in Cleveland, the 3 titles, and then, of course, the 6 finals losses over the course of his career. And that's where Kobe said you got to find a way to win. That's where Kobe engages in some of the most intellectually dishonest revisionist history you are going to find. Where Kobe says the only thing that ever mattered to me my entire career was championships. Well, yeah, except for the time that you made the Lakers pick between you and Shaq. When Shaq was the best player in the world. When the year after they chose you over Shaq, Shaq finished second in the MVP. And the year after that, he won a title. What were you doing those 2 years? Well, you were so focused on championships, you missed the playoffs in 2005. In 2006, you blew a 3-1 lead in the first round. And in 2007, you lost in 5 in the first round. What did you do after 2007? Oh, you demanded a trade on Stephen A. Smith's radio show. You then found some goofballs in a parking lot and on video trashed your teammates Andrew Bynum, your GM Mitch Kupchak for not making a trade. Like, all those things happened. We all remember those things happening. And so I will give Kobe the benefit of the doubt on this. This has been a tough 24 months for Kobe Bryant since LeBron beat the 73-win Warriors. Because Kobe always wanted the discussion to be Kobe and Michael. And the discussion he got was Kobe and Duncan.
And there's nothing wrong with that.
There's nothing wrong with that. There's a legitimate...
I mean, if you look at their career...
Yes. Both got 5 rings.
Yeah, I mean, how many times they played against each other?
Yep.
The organization, San Antonio, and the Lakers... Like, that's a great comparison.
And you can even include Shaq in that. If you want to have a 3-way, you could I would go Duncan, Kobe, Shaq. If you want to argue Shaq, Kobe, Duncan, if you want to argue Kobe, those are all legitimate arguments. From that era, Kobe, Duncan, and Shaq, you can rank them however. But that's the debate he got. And LeBron is getting the Michael Jordan debate. But for Kobe Bryant, I just want to remind the audience, just take LeBron this year in the playoffs compared to the best individual years Kobe ever had and put them side by side. So on the right-hand side is just what LeBron did this year. On the left-hand side is Kobe's career highs in the playoffs in points, rebounds, assists, and 40-point games. LeBron, you take the best Kobe ever was and take just this LeBron year, and it's not close. So for Kobe to use this opportunity to say this is a postseason where LeBron's lack of championship medal showed, what Kobe's doing is showing his own unfortunate insecurity about where he ranks in the all-time greats, because 8th or 9th isn't good enough for him, evidently.
Chris, you're a guy that really says championships matter, and that's why we talk about the LeBron versus Michael Jordan all the time. But for a guy like Kobe who's got 5, do you put him and LeBron in equal category as far as, legendary superstars, even though he's got more championships, but obviously less?
Yeah, I haven't seen them that far apart, and, man, I grew up loving Kobe. But LeBron's stats have overwhelmed Kobe in where he was. And Kobe getting hurt at the end of his career, that hurt his legacy, not only as far as the numbers that he's absent of, but how he did it and the fashion for which he did it. He demanded the max salary in the team that had no flexibility, so they had no chance to win. So the Kobe Bryant we saw for the last 3 seasons was not a great Kobe Bryant. LeBron's numbers, if you know basketball, you know that LeBron is too efficient as a basketball player compared to Kobe. Now, I hate getting into these discussions because we always have to try to tear down someone's career to be able to discuss it. But I don't believe you have to do that. Kobe did have a great career.
It was unbelievable.
But you can't argue about LeBron's efficiency, LeBron's rebounding, assists, all those things. I mean, if you want to talk about just scoring, then you're going to still give it to LeBron because how LeBron scored, he was more efficient doing it.
Well, and the other thing is, and this is I agree with you that too often when we compare players, and I try not to do this in the LeBron-Jordan debate. I try not to talk about where Jordan wasn't great. I just talk about where LeBron is excellent, or at least I attempt to. But the reason that I don't mind pointing out some of Kobe's flaws here is because he opened this door. I implore everyone to read this Howard Beck article.
Yeah, that goes on to say a lot.
Every single person quoted in this article they're asked about what about LeBron's record, and they're like, well, man, Jerry West is the logo. What about the championships? Well, if it's all about championships, why don't we talk more about Russell? Everyone is measured except for Kobe, who, when he's asked about how much do you value making 8 straight finals, Kobe scoffs and says, I think you know how I feel about that. When he asks about why they didn't win a championship this year, he says, you have to find a way to win a championship. Kobe, America needs to be reminded of this. Here's how many playoff series Kobe Bryant won in his career without an all-NBA big man, either Shaq or Powell. 0. 3 years in Kobe's career in the heart of his prime, ages 26, 27, 28. He didn't have Shaq, he didn't have Powell. He missed the playoffs once, got bounced in the first round twice. Kobe had to deal with a teammate situation similar to what LeBron dealt with this year, similar to what LeBron dealt with in 07. And by the LeBron standard, he failed miserably. So now I don't believe he failed because teammates matter. But Kobe opining in this article about how you make your teammates better, that's comedy. That's comedy coming from this player who, as great as he was, that was one of his weaknesses.
Yes.
And LeBron's, as whatever you think of LeBron, his greatest strength is that.
At least that's what his teammates say.
That's what his teammates say.
And if you polled Kobe's teammates compared to LeBron's teammates, I think those numbers would be overwhelming.
See, if the Kobe's quote was, LeBron needed to take 35 shots, I don't care if he had a broken hand, at least you'd be like, okay, that is what Kobe would have done.
Yes.
That is, but when the quote is, LeBron's got to make his teammates better.
He's got to do less. He actually said he's got to do less.
He's got to do less. Like, that's the part that, to me, resonates as so hollow.
Right, and if I'm asking Kobe these questions, I would have asked Kobe about Magic Johnson. And I wonder what he would have said. Because Magic won 5, lost 4. Yep. You know, would he have told Magic that you have to find a way to win? Or no, because Rob Pelinka, works there under Magic, and that's Kobe's agent. And I'm sure that he would have said some different things. So sometimes people, they don't remember it the same way. But if you look at, like, you're a basketball fan, all those things that Nick and I talk about were true about Kobe Bryant.
Well, Kobe went on to say a number of other things, which we will get to over the course of the next couple hours. But coming up, is it possible the Warriors are actually looking to get even better? That is next. First things first.
At Buffalo Wild Wings, we'll admit that we often go overboard with our limited time offerings. We just can't help ourselves. Take our new signature sampler. For $15, you get wings and 3 shareable options, like fried pickles or cheese curds. Then there's our aptly named over-the-top nachos, a literal mountain of crispy tortilla chips loaded with your choice of pulled pork or honey barbecue chicken, corn, jalapenos, and more. Then top it all off with our new platinum margarita. Go overboard with us today at Buffalo Wild Wings. Wings, beer, sports. Available for a limited time while supplies last. Please drink responsibly.
We're going to get to rumors of another Warriors weapon, if it's possible, in just a second. But first, Kansas commit Quentin Grimes with the steal and throwdown. What's up, Nick?
Listen, my son played with this young man 3 years ago in Houston. He is such a quality kid. He was playing on one of the best AAU teams in the country as a sophomore in high school and was clearly the best. He is a future NBA player, Quentin Grimes.
By the way, that team, they went on a 45-0 run to start the game. Moving on track and field, this is 19-year-old Juan Miguel Echeverria, who, by the way, I thought actually broke his leg when he landed. He didn't. He had a 29-foot long jump. That's 8.83 meters, Nick.
See?
Longest jump since 95.
That's what they call jumping out the gym. I mean, jumping out the pit.
He jumped out of the long jump pit.
Now, that's an amazing leap right there.
He jumped so far, he made it dangerous. You were right to be worried that he might have broken his leg.
That's what I thought, that he landed in the end. I mean,
that's
8.83 meters?
That's crazy.
It's insane.
Oh, this is not
Finally, college baseball. Florida's Austin Langworthy hits the improbable walk-off home run off the outfielder's glove. Oh, he's going to remember that one. Gators advance to the College World Series.
Not good, man. Not good, Auburn Tigers. Nick, haven't been to the College World Series since 1997.
Really?
Over 7,000 days this guy's been waiting for this opportunity.
Oh, my. Well, he was probably not born. Or maybe he was
It's right
1 year
on that.
old.
It's
It's
right-
right
it's-
on the cusp. Man, and this would have been a big upset. Florida, I believe, to be the #1 team in the country.
Yep.
Auburn could have... Oh, that's brutal. That's not quite Conseco level, but that's brutal.
Back to the Golden State Warriors now, who are apparently obsessed with having all the talent in the NBA, not just, say, most of the talent in the NBA. Last week, they won their 3rd title in 4 seasons. This week, they want more. The Warriors are reportedly interested in acquiring Anthony Davis from the Pelicans the same way they used to be interested in acquiring Kevin Durant. That seemed to work out. Nick, what do you think? Should the Warriors actually consider trading for AD? Because they'd have to trade for AD.
All right, so I want the audience to understand a few things. Tim Cavalcami's been talking about this for a long time, okay? He's the reporter that spoke on this for The Athletic. He covers the team up in the Bay Area.
He used to cover me in Philadelphia.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
He's a really good journalist.
He really is.
And he's not talking about them doing it right now. He's talking about them doing it potentially a year from now is the most likely if they were to do it. And anyone that says that's laughable, it's insane, it would never happen, those are the same things being said about the Warriors going out and getting Kevin Durant. Now, that was cleaner because that was a player choosing to go there via free agency rather than via a trade. But could they make this happen? Well, I mean, yeah, like Draymond Green and Andre Iguodala's contracts match up. You could add them, you could trade them. If they're trying to sign Klay Thompson to an extension, they could then flip him. Like a lot of things to where this absolutely could happen. I would be careful if I'm Golden State in trying to have this be out there while I'm also potentially trying to sell Klay and Draymond on signing extensions now, which will cost them an enormous amount of money. If Klay and Draymond sign extensions early and forego true unrestricted free agency, the Warriors are limited in what they can pay them, as opposed to them hitting free agency. They could stay with the Warriors, but for Klay it would cost them about $80 million signing early. Draymond around the same. So I'd be very careful in letting it be out there. We might want to trade for Anthony Davis while we're also going to Klay and or Draymond saying, re-up now. Let's lock into you now. But I wouldn't put anything past the Warriors. They're not worried about the competitive balance of the league. They're not worried about the ratings of the NBA Finals. If they have the second and third best players in the world, if they can acquire the fourth, I'm sure they'll try to.
The Warriors haven't been relevant that much the last 20 years. And now we would say that this franchise, one of the most popular in all of sports, why would you give that up? So when people say, well, why wouldn't you be looking? I would think that in a couple years, they're going to be looking at adding a star, because that's their formula. Let's get as many stars together as possible, especially as long as we have, especially I think around Steph as a shooter. Let's put some other players. That's how the Lakers continued their dynasty for a long time. That's how the Celtics did it for a long time. So I'm not surprised at all. If it's not him, it's going to be someone else. So I'm not shocked at all, because in the NBA, now once you get a taste of it, and with them winning 3 out of the last 4, how long do they keep? Because as a player that's won 3 in Klay and Draymond, how much more do I sacrifice? I mean, because what's the difference between 3 and 4? Really not that much of a difference, but you talking about me taking $50 to $80 million less? Now, these players, I'm sure that they're looking at what's best for them, because it becomes hard to get people to continue to sacrifice, and it's going to be hard to keep this team totally together. So I'm not shocked at all they would be looking at a plan like Anthony Davis.
So you asked the question. I'd love you to answer it. Why would you take a team that's really at the beginning, if KD wins another one, of their dynasty, that has all the pieces in place, and say, well, let's try to tweak it a little bit. Maybe we can make it even better. This is a team that won during the regular season, that kind of skated through the postseason. Why would you want to tinker with that?
For the same reason that they took a 73-win team that had already won a title and said, we will totally revamp our bench. We will get rid of Harrison Barnes because we can add one of the very best players alive. Listen, if they can do this, I'm sure they will look into it. I want to make this very clear. I tried to lay out very lawyerly almost how it could happen, why I believe it's plausible. It would be terrible for the league. Like, there is no getting around that, and it would be... Would
it be terrible for league? Because you are going to give up 2 of those 4 superstars, most likely.
If you have the second, third, and fourth best players in basketball, then good night, good luck. It is
regardless
not an all-star
if you
team,
give up
it's
Klay
an all-NBA team.
I mean, we didn't know where the NBA was going to be 2 years from. In 2016, we didn't know we'd be here. So for us to think we're going to know where it's going to be in 2020, that's going to be hard to do. It's going to be hard to keep Golden State together. But I believe that they'll try to get another star in the next 3 years.
But the thing is this, though, and this is, for me, this is the problem that I had logically with people that endorsed the Kevin Durant move, is once you say you have no responsibility to the competition of the league, once you say you have no responsibility to trying to go out and beat these guys, once it was okay for Kevin Durant to do it, of course it's okay for Anthony Davis to do it. Kevin Durant's team was better, and Kevin Durant is better than Anthony Davis was. Kevin Durant's team was closer than Anthony Davis's team. Kevin Durant had better teammates than Anthony Davis has. Once it's okay for him to go, then it's okay for everyone to go. Then it's okay for LeBron to go. It's okay for Anthony Davis to go. It's okay for the All-NBA team to all be literally on one NBA team. I'm not okay with any of it. I don't like any of it. But it is.
It wouldn't be okay for the league. And I think moving forward, like the league will consider those things. Golden State has a rare opportunity to build on what they have, and that's probably going to be around KD and Steph. With Draymond and them, how many sacrifices are they going to be able to make so that they can improve? Because one thing that we've lost in this whole conversation, Golden State was down. They had the second-best record this year in the NBA during the regular season. They were down to the Houston Rockets, and Chris Paul got hurt. All right? So we're sitting here acting like, oh, there's no competition in the NBA. Well, they were down, and Chris Paul got hurt. They wouldn't have this championship if Chris Paul plays in one of those games.
Also, Kobe said just pass the ball more, and then the Cavs could have won, so they could have done that, too. But we should also factor in, when we talk about this again, maybe AD doesn't want to go through what Kevin Durant just went through. Maybe Anthony Davis wants to figure out how to win on his own without having to join. If you can't beat him, join him.
People don't think about Anthony Davis the way they thought about Kevin Durant when he was getting ready to leave. And he didn't have the firepower Russell Westbrook going against. So people, they wouldn't be upset. Yes.
Absolutely right, Sid.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
All right, let's take a break. Coming up, a prominent Cav thinks Cleveland can win a title without LeBron. And it's not LeBron. That's next on First Things First. The 2018 FIFA World Cup is coming to Fox and FS1. Every match live and over 300 hours of coverage. Oh, this is going to be good. The world's biggest sporting event is just 2 days away, right here on Fox and FS1. All right, we are going viral here on First Things First. Ty Cohn of Mounds View High in Minnesota striking out his longtime friend Jack Kokan to advance to the state championship. They grew up together and played on the same little league team. Super nice moment as he embraces his friend, hugs him instead of celebrating with his teammates. He knows how he feels. It gave me the chills when I saw this yesterday. It was just a really sweet thing.
You said that was in Minnesota?
Minnesota nice. I'm telling you, they're the nicest people in the world.
Look at that.
I'm not surprised at all. Great show of just feeling for another guy. You grow up together. Don't know if I don't know if I would have done that with one of my buddies. I don't know.
That was.
I ain't grow up in Minnesota.
Right.
Spent a lot of time
about it.
You're Ohio mean instead of Minnesota nice.
No, if I pitched to my best friend Marnie, I would probably go over if I struck her out and be like, Marn, I'm really sorry the way season ended. We should go, we'll go to Target afterwards. We'll hang out.
School?
Yeah.
In high school?
All right, maybe.
I'm like, hey, Dwight, eat that. Take that with you. No, you can't handle my stuff. Eat that, D.
Right. Why'd you go with Dwight? Why didn't you go with your friend who went with the funny name?
Toogie? Because we might have to fight. We might have to fight.
Swung on you?
Yeah, Toogie he got a mean left.
Okay.
Time for some stories to start your morning. Kawhi Leonard has been the subject of much drama this season and now this offseason. But according to reports, he is now expected to sign an extension in San Antonio. Boy, reports are the best. CC, would this be the right move for Kawhi?
Yeah, who's turned down $80 million? I've been saying this for a long time. This is the only place he can get the max deal. So it's going to be hard with Popovich for him to leave. We heard the conversation last year with LaMarcus Aldridge. It probably went a lot like that with Kawhi. He's going to be back with San Antonio.
My only question was, throughout this process, given the divorce that the owner is going through, Peter Holt and his wife Juliana, and some of the money involved, would the Spurs commit $215 million to a player? Because when CeCe says 80, it's not an $80 million contract he's talking about. He's talking about an $80 million difference between what the Spurs can offer and what anyone else can offer. Were they going to offer him the full boat Supermax? If they do, it doesn't matter what your endorsement money is. You can't make that money up. Kawhi was upset about
but this is something I found out, Nick. In divorce, she can pay for the other half with her money.
Okay.
You also find out there were 2 houses. Remember that? You can live in 2 houses.
You can live in 2 houses.
Never mind. Former Raptors coach Dwayne Casey has a new job. I don't know. He signed a 5-year deal to become the coach of the Detroit Pistons, replacing Stan Van Gundy. He will try and get the core of Blake Griffin, Andre Drummond, and Reggie Jackson to the playoffs. #hands full. Nick, what do you think? Was this a good hire?
I think it was an excellent hire for the Pistons. I'm not certain it was a great decision for Dwayne Casey. You have a Supermax contract, speaking of Supermax contracts, that's just now kicking in with Blake Griffin. and you have real concerns about how healthy he can be. This is your team moving forward. I thought Dwayne Casey was going to be a hot enough prospect that he could have maybe waited for a better fit, but if you're Detroit, you got to be thrilled. You got the best coach available.
He's dominated the East from a regular season standpoint, so he's very, very familiar. I think Detroit they got a good guy in the hire here. Offensively, you need to work a little bit. We saw them change their defense in Toronto, but this play calling in critical situations, I didn't see it as being elite, even though he is a good coach.
That out of timeout stuff, yep.
All right, moving on to the NFL. Dallas running back Ezekiel Elliott is looking to take on more of a leadership role in year 3. Zeke says, I've definitely been more vocal. That's something I've been focusing on. CC, what do you expect from Ezekiel Elliott this coming season?
Zeke's always been a leader. When he grew up in Illinois, as a great athlete there, he was a great leader at Ohio State. Urban Meyer tells stories about him and his leadership. Only reason why he wasn't a leader last year was because of the off-the-field issues and the pending suspension. But I expect Zeke to be at the forefront, especially with Dez Bryant and Witten being gone. They need Zeke to be a good leader.
Well, that's the thing. Because those two guys are gone, Zeke and Dak have to kind of tag team this thing. Obviously, the quarterback's always going to be a de facto leader on the team, but the other guy who's usually a de facto leader is your best player. And so the quarterback and your best player, two guys that came in the same draft class, two guys who off the field seem to get along very well and be good friends, both of those guys have to take on that responsibility.
All right, sticking with the Cowboys here, Randy Gregory, the defensive end, is expected to meet with NFL officials regarding potential reinstatement. Gregory had 17.5 sacks in his first 2 years, but was suspended all of the 2017 season. Chris, what would it mean for Gregory to be reinstated?
Any team right now, if you can add a player, God bless you,
Thank you,
that can add 10 sacks, and his potential is really off the charts. Add him to that defense in Dallas. They could use another rusher. I'm looking for Randy Gregory to be reinstated, and between him, J.J. Watt, and my man Carson Wentz for comeback player of the year. Watch all 3 of those names. So I'm pulling for the kid.
All right, so just real quick, the off the field. This is a guy you know, is a guy you wrote a letter on his behalf. He had real big issues coming out of school at the combine his first few years. You believe he's in the healthiest place he's been in?
Yes, he's gotten the type of help that you would want to see. It's time for him to be reinstated.
Okay.
All right, finally, Julio Jones says he'll skip Atlanta's mandatory minicamp this week. Jones is seeking a new deal despite having 3 years left on his current contract. CC, what do you make of this? Why is he asking for a new deal with 3 years left?
Well, all that quarterback money started floating around.
He wanted some.
People started hearing about it. Salary cap, over $175 million, the highest ever. The type of success on the field with the TV deals. That's what Julio Jones, Matty Ice, he said, I mean, I know you guys like Matty Ice, but you guys told me you love me. And you know that Julio feels very, very confident because with 3 years left on his contract. Now, we might hear that for someone who comes in and signs a rookie deal, and they break records and everything. But typically, a guy who was a top 5 pick and then was signed to a monumental deal and then only being not even 2 years into that deal wanting another deal, but it lets the confidence he's got in that organization, that Thomas Dimitroff, the general manager there who runs the day-to-day, that he could get a contract. They love Julio Jones, and it's amazing the perception. They love Julio in Atlanta. Now, they like Odell with the Giants, but with all the other things off the field, if Odell had done the same thing...
They would crucify him.
But because people love Julio, he's very little maintenance. He's one of the hardest workers you could ever have as being one of your leaders, that this is going to be interesting. I believe he's going to get a new contract because of the economics and because of the contract they gave Matty Ice.
I'm glad you brought up Odell because it reminded me when I saw this of advice you gave. You gave Odell at some house, very nice house in Los Angeles with the giant dogs outside that scared the hell out of you, that I was sitting there listening to. That Odell, I bet, is thinking back on and wishing he had taken, which was you told him going into last year, listen, man, you only have so much chips to cash in. And I'm paraphrasing, essentially. And if you waste them on nonsense, it will cost you money. If you waste your cachet with the organization on foolishness,
non-football stuff.
It's hard for you to then be able to hold their feet to the fire on getting all the money you want. Because
when you need it.
When you need it. So Julio has done the opposite, right? Julio's never cashed in any chips. He's never been a problem, never made any noise, just produced, right? And now he's got 3 years left on a deal. He is skipping a mandatory part of the offseason.
So he's losing money.
And, well, not real money yet. A slight amount, but he goes into training camps when they can really start finding you. But the point is, nobody is really going to hold this against him because he has so much cachet already built up, so much goodwill built up. Conversely, you're right, if Odell did something like this, there would be a totally different reaction. As much as I like Odell, there should be. Like, Julio has bided his time and waited for this moment. Now, will he get the money? I think he probably will. I'm sure the Falcons don't love the idea of setting the precedent of we're going to rip deals up with 3 years left.
Not just the Falcons. What about everyone else in the league? When you have a big-time guy that plays well, a couple of years in and said, well, you know, it happened in Atlanta. I think 3 years in, I got a couple years left. I want a new deal.
Well, this is the thing. You have to be careful looking at other person's business and trying to think your business is the same because it's about perception, how that organization did an organization trade all these draft picks to be able to make you that top pick from Alabama? Typically, you're not going to have that. Do you have the same resume as Julio Jones? It's unless you're Antonio Brown, which he was going to hold out, and he ended up getting a new contract. So you won't have other guys around the league do it because they know that it's a personal situation. We have my man in Seattle, the safety.
Earl Thomas?
Earl Thomas. He's holding out for a new contract. You think he mentioned Julio? No, he's had a great career, and he's got 1 year left on his deal that Seattle hasn't decided to do. So it's more about your team compared to league-wide.
But we're going to move on in a second, but just quickly, tell me how this plays out. Say he just keeps holding out. So what, he's going to eventually play and then play with a chip on his shoulder for 3 more years?
No. He's too important of a player for them to let him keep holding out. This is the thing. Players get cut with 3 years left on deals all the time, and we call that business. It's rare in the NFL that a player that isn't a quarterback has this type of leverage. We saw Revis have it often, and he exerted it. I applaud players in a league that is so skewed towards management power. If you have the leverage and you can go get your money now, go get your money now.
And the thing about it is, he's not in the position of Odell because he already has a contract. Because right now he has a base salary probably averaging about 11 million over the next 3 years. But he's got his eye on Antonio, who averaged 17 million in his deal. So he's looking for the difference between that 11 and that 17 over the course probably of 3 to 5 years. So it's not a $100 million deal he's looking for.
And he knows, listen, Matt Ryan is not the best quarterback in the NFL. He's the highest paid. Julio might be the best wide receiver in the NFL. He's not the highest paid. He can look at within the team and say, listen, man, y'all found money for him. You're going to find money for me.
Jarvis Landry, Cleveland Browns, I think they gave him $15 million. So Julio's like, I think I need a little bump.
Yeah.
All right. To the Cavaliers now, back to basketball after losing 3 NBA Finals in 4 seasons with the Cavs. I'm not showing up till I get a new contract. You'll be like, great, we have 27 other people that can fill in.
Dusty, get dressed.
LeBron is now looking to be heading to greener pastures to pursue, well, greener pastures. According to Cavs owner Dan Gilbert, that is not a problem. Gilbert reportedly believes he can build a championship team without LeBron and is, quote, looking forward to trying. On a related note, I can't ice skate, but I'm sure I'll make the NHL next year. Nick, how far are the Cavs from a title without LeBron, distance-wise?
I mean, as far as you can be. That's the answer. They have a terrible salary cap situation. They don't have this surplus of draft picks coming in. In fact, they traded away their own draft pick this year so they could get Jordan Clarkson. That was one of the deals that Dan Gilbert made sure he helped orchestrate. They have the 8th overall pick coming in, and then they have their own draft pick, which I imagine will be very high draft picks for multiple years because the team will be terrible. But it is this mentality that is one of the reasons you're losing LeBron James. Because Dan Gilbert has, for some reason, believed that he's been a big part of this, as
no
opposed
doubt.
to a not even a supporting actor, and not even a bit player, just a guy there for the ride. Anybody could have bought the Cavs in 2005, and guess what? They would have, at the very least, had this much success, and a lot of owners, they would have had more success.
Yeah, this is the funny thing about Dan Gilbert, because right now I wouldn't be talking about a championship. I don't know what he thought he was going to gain.
Yeah.
Because, I'm a little bit older than both of you, but my history is just a short history. When LeBron was in Miami, they were the worst in the NBA, right?
Cleveland.
The Cavs were.
Yes.
Yeah. Owned by Dan Gilbert?
Yes.
Or when LeBron left, did Dan Gilbert give his ownership to his son or something? No, he ran the team, right? Now, in his history as an owner, he's never extended a general manager beyond the first contract.
Correct.
So that's not championship basketball. What has he done absent of LeBron when they won the lottery and LeBron happened to be there? Absent of drafting LeBron, what have they done?
Well, and they drafted LeBron before he got there. So, he got that. Listen, Dan Gilbert's on the team for 13 years. 9 of those years, LeBron's been on the team. In those 9 years, they've won 20 playoff series. 4 of those years, LeBron hasn't been on the team. They've won 0 playoff series and gotten the first overall pick 3 times. See how bad they were. First overall pick 3 times. This is comedy, man. This is a super rich guy thinking he's a world conqueror when he's not.
These are the 3 people he's lost in the last 12 months. David Griffin, Kyrie Irving, and LeBron James twice.
Right.
Now, Jenna, I don't know how it is when you get left twice.
Yeah, it never
I know
happened.
once is bad, but
Never happened.
LeBron leaves you twice, and you're sitting here talking about championships, and everything else that you've experienced without LeBron has been pain and misery. I don't know what he's
If there was any doubt, if there was any, I could see maybe a path towards these two reconciling just enough where they could coexist and play. There's not. Dan Gilbert obviously is ready to move on and try to win something without LeBron, and clearly this is a pride thing. LeBron is clearly ready to
Dan
move
Gilbert
on.
don't have a choice. And that's his big problem.
Well, that's what
all right?
he doesn't have a
He's
choice
rich.
because he created the foundation whereby LeBron was going to leave.
He's rich. He's made some bad decisions. Him and LeBron, since LeBron's been back, have never been close. And the only chance he had at bringing LeBron back was last year, potentially trading for Paul George. They didn't do it.
Or keeping Kyrie.
And keeping Kyrie.
And maybe they're up in the NBA Finals 3-2 right now. But listen, I just want everyone to know, because the Cavs have, even when LeBron walks, no cap space. Now, maybe LeBron will do them a solid if he does the sign and trade. But if LeBron does not do the sign and trade, here's the Cavs depth chart next year. Point guard, you got George Hill and Jordan Clarkson. George Hill, who was hot and cold all playoffs, mostly cold, and Jordan Clarkson, who had the worst playoff run from a shooting perspective in modern NBA history.
And they're locked in?
They're locked in. I'm talking about guys who are locked in. George Hill, Jordan Clarkson. Your shooting guard position is J.R. Smith and Kyle Korver. Korver will be 38 years old, coming off an NBA Finals where he made 1 3-pointer. The only small...
Rodney Hood's a free agent.
Rodney Hood's a free agent.
There you go.
The only
That's where you're
small
gonna get your
forward
guy.
on the roster is Jetty Osman, my guy.
Jetty's going to get all the playing time you were wishing for this year.
Exactly. You still have Kevin Love, and then your centers are Tristan Kardashian and Ante Zizic. That's who you've got. That's your team next year. And the 8th overall pick, whomever that may be.
They might as well get some minutes for Kanye West. But this is one of the biggest problems, Jenna, league-wide. Even when LeBron was there the first time, one of the big reasons LeBron left was he couldn't get anyone to come to Cleveland.
Right.
So if you look at the top 20 players in the NBA, now or over the next 5 years,
That's a good point.
which one of these guys is going to come to Cleveland?
Especially without LeBron.
So that is hard when you can't.
Jetty's like, I got my own team of people that are coming.
When you can't get the top talent to be able to come to Cleveland, it becomes hard to be thinking about championships.
You bought the NBA team that, by dumb luck, was closest geographically to the birthplace of the greatest or second greatest player ever. You squandered it. You blew it. You lost him. He graciously came back. You squandered it. You blew it. You're going to lose him again.
He got broken up with twice.
It's one of the worst ownership gaffes in modern sports history. He did it twice, and now he's talking out the side of his mouth about winning a championship. It is laughable.
Let's face it, we've all dated a guy like that. Coming up, how hard will it be for the Eagles? Just let's keep going.
I hadn't either. We've all dated a girl like that, Jenna. We're lying to America.
Yeah. We're back after this. Welcome back to First Things First. Coach Mangini. Eric
Good to
Mangini
see you, Coach.
is here.
Good
Coach,
to be here.
you had a very harrowing trip up from Florida to come see us, and we very much appreciate it. You got very little sleep, so we will throw not such difficult questions at you today. Can you handle it?
I think I might be able to.
Okay.
Is there a Starbucks run being made? Or?
There is a Starbucks run. By the time this segment ends, I will have another cup of coffee,
good.
so it'll be good.
Awesome.
Let's talk Eagles. Last year at
share
this
mine.
time, the Eagles were just another NFL team with high hopes and dog masks. This year, as defending Super Bowl champs, they still have high hopes. But according to their head coach, it's time to, quote, put the masks away and get to work. And while Amazon isn't happy about it because they sold out in like a week, the Eagles are embracing their new position as targets. Coach, how much harder will it be for the Eagles now that they are Super Bowl champs and not underdogs?
It's significantly harder. And Teddy Atlas's quote about success is like a martini, it relaxes you. That's true. And when we won our first Super Bowl in New England, we went in that next season, and we didn't really understand how to deal with success. And you spend so much time teaching people on how to overcome adversity, but you need to learn how to deal with success, and it's not an easy thing. So everything they did well last year, they're going to have to do equally well, but they're also going to have to do it better because the rest of the league is analyzing them, studying them, chasing them, closing that gap. There's got to be an openness with their scheme so that they can create a new edge, because the edge that they had isn't going to be there. And every week, each team is measuring themselves against you.
And you could see them not understanding what winning does this offseason. I kept telling you guys, why are we talking about the Eagles? Why the Eagles keep talking about what's going on in New England? Because the teams that have won, you have seen in the offseason, they treat it totally different. So I'm concerned about the Philadelphia Eagles. Now, they're really, really talented. I think that they're well coached. But when you are one of the top teams in the NFL, this is what happens. Everybody studies you. When you are just a middle-of-the-pack team, just teams in your division study you. Or if there's certain wrinkles that certain teams might try to add, that's something you might do special, then those few teams study you. But when you're elite, everyone studies you, and there is no league that has the type of competitive balance like the NFL has. So that's why teams have a hard time repeating, and that's why there should be serious concern about Philadelphia and what's going to be their calling card now. That now the coach has told them to put away the dog mask, because for me, New England, the last 15 years, somehow in their mind with Belichick and the staff, they have created an underdog mentality every single year.
Right, an edge, right? Like the Eagles rode an edge all year, whether it was the chip on their shoulder, whatever it is. But what do they have now? What's the thing that they carry with them all season?
I think what they have is overwhelming talent. I think they've got you're wincing. Tell me.
Overwhelming?
Oh, I don't mean in comparison to
overwhelming.
Hold on. Okay, so maybe that's too strong of a word.
I'm going to tell you what they have. They have an inordinate amount of good big people.
Right. So
offensive linemen and defensive linemen, and they have a quarterback.
And that's exactly what I was going to get to. So maybe you would have used a softer word, but my point is they've got an MVP caliber quarterback coming back, and up front on offense and defense, they're as strong as any team in the league with offensive line and defensive line, and they seem to make their strength even more of a strength as far as adding pass rushers. But I wanted to get to the point you made about New England, because I was just doing in the last 25 years in the NFL. Since the Cowboys won back-to-back against Buffalo, since then, the only back-to-back champs are the 03-04 Pats. Right? And there's a lot of teams we thought, man, Seattle, they are built for a dynasty. They won it, they got back, they didn't win it, they have not been back since. Green Bay with Aaron Rodgers, man, they win a Super Bowl, they go 15-1, they don't make the Super Bowl, and they've never been back since. What, if I'm remembering correctly, the year after you guys won your first Super Bowl, you guys won the last game of the year, but 9-7 or 10-6 and missed out on a tiebreaker or something like that?
Yep, we beat up on Pittsburgh first game of the season, 29-14. Then we dismantled the Jets, 44-7. Then we beat Kansas City, 41-38 in overtime. We thought we were pretty good, But then we get to the end of the season, and we're 8-7. We got to play the Dolphins. We beat them in overtime, okay? And we were closer to the team that won the Super Bowl than the team that was playing that whole season. But at the end of it, when we finished 9-7, Miami finished 9-7, and the Jets finished 9-7, they had a better strength of schedule. They go to the playoffs. But the main lesson from that whole experience is we didn't truly understand how to approach that next year. And there's this tendency to get caught up in the past. We're the Super Bowl champions. We do what we do. All that stuff. You can't do that because you can't change the past. And then there's looking to the future, and you're not Nostradamus. You can't predict it. They need to live in the now. That's where the Eagles need to be if they want any chance to repeat.
That's hard to do. You guys didn't get that perspective until the team saw success a couple years in. How do you tell a team if you're the head coach, hey guys, like that's over?
No, we got that perspective after we had failure. After we had success.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
So how do they prevent that from happening? You don't get that. You guys got that perspective a couple years in, and not just on that second season.
I'm not sure. I wish we had done a better job of it. And it's like when you tell your kids, hey, the stove is hot, and then your son still touches it, and he's surprised it gets burned. Look, this stove is hot, and every team's coming in hot, and you better be ready to deal with it, because if not, you're gonna have a real problem.
I want to ask you a question. In this regard, is this where Carson Wentz not being a part of the run can work to their benefit? Their quarterback, their team leader, their player leader at least, he didn't get to experience the playoff success. He didn't get to experience the Super Bowl. And while he has a Super Bowl ring, I don't know that he feels like he is as much of a champion as the other guys. And is that a way to keep a team sharp or to keep a team on edge that other defending Super Bowl champions haven't had?
I'm sure Carson does have that, because he was not there, and Nick Foles was running the team. But also Carson Wentz has a lot of talent, and there's a lot of talented quarterbacks in the NFC. So I believe one of the wild cards that they have is the amount of offense, the volume they can grow on who Carson Wentz is compared to Nick Foles in the Super Bowl. Because before the Minnesota game, the NFC Championship game, Nick Foles was not very good. So I think they can be a lot better offensively this year. So if they take that into where they're not resting on last year, be more effective offensively, that can be their calling card going forward.
I think what's going to be interesting to look at, too, is if Carson Wentz has some failure or some struggles or those things, he doesn't have the championship. He doesn't have that legitimacy. He's got a lot of potential. He's got a lot of ability. He's had a lot of regular season success. But now if suddenly later in the season he struggles, there's going to be guys in the locker room that say, we need to go back to that other guy.
Oh, wow.
And let's not forget Philadelphia. Jenna, those your people. Now, they will call for your head regardless of who you are.
For example, they've called for your head,
They called for my head multiple times, exactly.
Before they even met you,
when they get the offer up there, I'm going to give it to them.
Okay.
By the way, I've left out my friend Stinks back-to-back titles with the Broncos. So it's only been on once in 20 years, 97, 98 Broncos. My mistake. Apologies.
All right. Coach, we'll see you a little later on the show.
All right.
Coming up, let's get back to basketball. Could the Warriors be even better next season?
Yep. Nick, wrong.
Welcome back to First Things First. Steven Jackson is here. Steven, it'd be safe to say you are one of the fittest guests we have on our show.
Thank you.
I will tell you that I watch all your little Instagram workouts every night.
Ditto.
Thank you very much.
Ditto.
Appreciate the love. And it is. You work hard, and then you bring it, and I very much appreciate it.
Thank you so much.
Okay. What's...
I love coming here because I get a compliment from Jenna every time I come here.
Every single.
Ain't
And
worried
it's
about you
always the
guys.
same one.
No, it's
and
not.
Steven does a great job of acting like it's...
I'm
Steven
telling
Jackson put
you,
it together.
someone does something. Yeah,
we
got
here,
something
we
right
here.
there,
Yeah,
little
we
Nick.
here.
Not the first woman to holler at him. I mean, okay, holla. Okay, like you're not the first. You used to know. Excuse me.
It's unbelievable.
All right, let's get back to the Golden State Warriors. They are apparently
happens.
obsessed with having all the talent in the NBA, Steven, not just say most of the talent in the NBA. Last week, they won their third title in 4 seasons. This week, they want even more than that. Warriors reportedly interested in acquiring Anthony Davis, you know, the same way they used to be interested in acquiring, Kevin Durant, and that seemed to work out fine. What do you think, Steven? Should the Warriors actually consider trading for Davis?
Any team in the NBA, if you can acquire Anthony Davis, you got to go for it. But at the same time, with the Golden State Warriors, with the position they're in, you just give up too much and break up too much chemistry to have to get Anthony Davis. Me personally, I wouldn't do it because I know that I've won 3 championships with the guys I have. I know I have guys, stars on my team that's willing to make sacrifices for other players. I have stars on my team that don't care about being the star. I got stars on my team that's willing to take contract hits for other guys to keep this team together to win. I don't know if Anthony Davis coming to this team will keep that same winning mentality. Obviously, he's a great player, one of the top 5 best players in the league, but chemistry means a lot when you're talking about building a championship team and having a dynasty like they have now. I think bringing him in will break it up, but, you know, it just depends on what they got to give up to get him.
Jack, you make a great point as far as initially, because Draymond was part of the group that was recruiting KD. So in doing that, Draymond already realized, hey, you know something, I'm willing to take less for KD. Now, they have great chemistry on the court. Now, Steph being kind of the ringleader and being there the longest time, Steph would have to sign off on all this.
Right.
Now, how many guys I'm willing to do that for? I did it for KD, and it's got me a couple of championships, but am I going to just keep doing this for just any other superstar? Well, he's the leader of the
just
team.
Just be okay
so
with sharing more of the spotlight.
Financially,
no,
spotlight.
Steph's locked in money-wise.
Yeah,
Steph's got his money.
Yes, but it's how we're going to, man, do we want KD? Forget about what the money is, the conversation. Before Draymond could keep calling KD, man, he had to go to Steph and be like, hey, man, we want this to, because Steph is not a guy that would go out and recruit KD. Clay is not a guy who would do that. It's not about the money. It's about, are we going to accept him? Because that means less shots. That means everything is going to have to be spread as far as the notoriety, and Steph would have to sign off on that. Now, how many times can you keep doing that? Because it's hard for Steph to sign off on getting Anthony Davis when he's got to, in turn, sign off on getting rid of Clay and Draymond. Because that's what they would have to do. So now you start getting into a lot of personal stuff. Well, it's really hard to pull off.
I think this is, listen, I think the timing of this coming out, because Tim Kawakami has been alluding to this for a while. The timing of this coming out, while I understand it, because they're not talking about trading for him right now. They're talking about a year from now. Here's the thing. I think it is about a recruitment to try to lock in and make sure Kevin Durant stays there. I think it's about trying to send Kevin Durant the message, we're going to keep adding talent. We're going to keep making it as easy as possible for you to do exactly what you want. But you have to be careful with the message you're sending Durant when at the same time they are saying, hey, Clay and Draymond, we want to open you up to contract extensions right now, which for them would cost them tens of millions of dollars. If Clay signs a preemptive...
And would make them more attractive contract to trade.
Exactly.
If they sign them right now.
So people understand, you can go way over the cap to re-sign your own guys once they hit unrestricted free agency. But if they're under contract, you can only give them a raise based on what their current salary is. It's convoluted. Just trust me that the difference in money for Clay or Draymond re-signing now with 1 and 2 years left on their deals rather than waiting for unrestricted free agency is upwards of $80 million a player. So if I'm trying to get Clay and Draymond, if I'm the Warriors, hey, re-sign now. Let's make sure we keep it all together. I don't know that strategically it's the right play to have this out there because they know the only way you get Anthony Davis is to trade one or both of us. And the Warriors, while, yeah, it would be great, obviously, for them to have the 2nd best player in the world, the 3rd best player in the world, and in my eyes, the 4th best player in the world, Anthony Davis. It's the same question I had when they were 73-9. How much better can you get? How much better can you get than in the last 2 years, you've played 8 playoff series? You've swept 4 of them. You've won 3 in 5 games. You've only been pushed in 1 playoff series in the last 2 years, and that was the Houston series.
Yeah, I just want to know what they're trying to do, because you have a championship team now, and you have stars that's already bought into what you have going on.
Yes.
Why would you mess that up to get another star in to start all over? And just like he said, everybody might not feel the same way that the ownership feel. You know, we accepted KD. Because we knew that we could win with him. Now, you asking us to break up a dynasty, so-called dynasty, to bring in another guy to make someone else happy? You're supposed to be making your teammates happy. And I think this team is happy where they are right now.
And I would be very careful as far as trying to bring in a big man, because as we saw in the playoffs, man, this is a jump shooting league. All right, I don't
He's
care.
not your average big man.
I can understand. No, he's a phenomenal.
Yeah.
He's a phenomenal talent. But the way they blow the whistle in the playoffs, all right, they are not giving big guys calls. The only one calls they give are to the jump shooters. So as far as moving forward from a style of play, the Warriors would have to change some of their style of play. And I just know in the playoffs, Joel Embiid, we'd say he wasn't as dominant. None of the big people were as dominant. Now, Anthony was really special, and now Golden State doesn't have a center either. So now I just moving forward, I just believe for a big person, it's hard to have them to be the focal point with the lack of whistle in the playoffs.
The only plus to that is you substitute AD for Draymond, you got somebody that you can't help off of. He gonna shoot that 3 ball, and he can put it on the floor. That's the only plus of having him instead of Draymond.
What if you turn this around the other way? Are Clay and Dre enough for the Pelicans to give up on Anthony Davis, who basically is their future?
I enjoy this conversation, and I have learned my lesson because I tried to poo-poo the idea that KD would ever go to Golden State, and I was proven wrong. So I no longer take these reports and just throw them out.
I do.
But I mean, I'll tell you this, though. Anthony Davis, every team has talked about trading Anthony Davis, except for the only team that can trade Anthony Davis, the New Orleans Pelicans. The idea that when we talk about being fortunate enough to get the #1 overall pick in the draft, when there is a superstar player, since LeBron, AD is the best can't-miss #1 overall pick. Period, point blank. They got him. They finally just had success with him. They have him under contract next year. They have him under contract the year after. And then he's got a player option for the year after that. It's why when Boston was talking about, Boston, thinking these assets for Anthony Davis, it's not a hostile takeover. You can't just go and be like, we are removing him from your team. So unless
So
Anthony
you're saying
Davis,
they wouldn't trade him?
The only reason the Pelicans would ever trade Anthony Davis is if he demanded a trade.
They won't.
They won't. He would have to demand his way out of there. And so I don't.
What kind of world are we in? We're like, you know what? I'll trade for that guy.
We're in a world of made-up news. That's what we're in a world of. You know, it's like it's been plenty of times people said stuff about Kawhi, and I ended up calling him on the phone and asking him it was totally fake. We're in the world of make-up news, and they want to see certain players play with different teams, so they just come out with it. Half the time, it don't even be true.
And I think the probability of another star joining him in New Orleans is greater than him joining the Golden State Warriors.
I'd like to see him and Boogie stay together.
All right, listen, when you're trying to dispel all this fake news, call LeBron, find out where he's going so we don't have to do any more fake guessing anymore, just to make my life easier.